I never thought I'd curse the day my brother got engaged. But there I was, knee-deep in the wreckage of what used to be our family home in suburban Detroit, rifling through Dad's desk like a thief in my own damn house. The wedding invitations had arrived that morning, gold embossed, screaming excess from a printer in Napa Valley, and I knew, deep in my gut, that none of it came from Dad's legitimate accounts. He'd sold Grandpa's dog tags. Those battered World War II relics. The ones Grandpa wore through the mud of Normandy and clutched like a rosary on his deathbed. Gone for a down payment on a vineyard honeymoon. And the dealer? He didn't just sell them, he called me Miss Harper. His voice crackled over the line, oily as Lake St. Claire in summer. Your father's in deeper shit than you know. That engraving? It's a confession. Meet me, or watch your whole world burn. That call hit me like a sucker punch from the ghost of every holiday dinner where I'd bitten my tongue while Tommy preened and Dad nodded approval. I was 28, scraping by as a freelance coder in a one-bedroom that smelled like regret, while Tommy, the golden boy, was set to marry some Instagram influencer in a ceremony that could bankrupt a small country. But it wasn't the theft that gutted me, it was the lie. Grandpa had pressed those tags into my hand the night before he died, whispering, "Keep 'em close, Alice. They're the key to what your father buried." I'd hidden them in my old room, safe from Dad's decluttering sprees. How the hell had he found them? And why me? The screw-up daughter who'd taken the fall for his mess a decade ago. The one who'd done time for a fraud I didn't commit. All to keep the family name shiny for Tommy's Ivy League applications. I drove to the dealer shop that afternoon, the wipers slapping against a freak December downpour that turned the freeways into rivers of taillights. The place was tucked in a strip mall off 8 Mile, sandwiched between a vape joint and a bail bondsman, classic Motor City underbelly. Eddie Ruiz, the dealer, was a wiry guy in his 50s, tattoos snaking up his neck like bad decisions, leaning on the counter with a smirk that said he'd seen every flavor of desperation. "Alice Harper," he drawled, sliding the tags across the scarred formica. "Your pop haggled like a used car salesman. Said it was for family unity. Bullshit. But this," he flipped one over, revealing the faint etchings under the patina, JH. "The lie that binds." 1944 dash. My blood turned to ice. JH, Grandpa Jack Harper. The question mark after 1944 wasn't a date, it was a taunt. A loose end. "What lie?" I whispered, but Eddie just chuckled, low and knowing. "Your old man didn't just sell these for chump change. He needed quick cash 'cause the wedding's a smokescreen. Tommy's bride? She's got debts that make Burnnie Madoff look like a Boy Scout, embezzlement from her daddy's firm, and your brother's neck-deep in covering it. But that's not the half. These tags? They match a set from a cold case. Your grandpa didn't die peaceful in that VA hospital bed. He was silenced. Poisoned. And the autopsy? Fudged by a doc on your dad's payroll." I gripped the counter, the world tilting like a bad acid trip. Grandpa's death 6 months back, officially heart failure. A blessing, Dad had called it at the funeral, toasting with scotch while I sobbed in the ladies' room. I'd always suspected. The bruises on his arms. The way he'd flinch at Dad's voice on speakerphone. But poisoning? For what? Eddie leaned in, breath like stale cigars. "Your father's no saint, Alice. He's a kingpin in the shadows. Real estate flips that ain't flips. They're fronts for laundering casino cash from the tribes up north. Grandpa found out. Tried to blow the whistle through you. The disappointing kid who wouldn't toe the line. That's why he gave you the tags. Insurance. Betrayal doesn't hit like a wave. It seeps in, corrosive, until you're hollowed out. I'd spent my 20s rebuilding from the ashes of that fraud rap, 18 months in Wayne County lockup for cooking the books at Dad's firm, when it was him siphoning funds for his mistresses and Tommy's tuition. I'd confessed to it all, tear-streaked in that interrogation room, because Dad promised it'd keep the family intact. For Tommy, he'd said, his hand on my shoulder like a vice. He's the future. And I'd believed him, the idiot daughter, trading my shot at college for a record that haunted every job interview. Now this, murdering Grandpa to bury his sins? Eddie wasn't done. I got a way to even score.
Kid.
Experimental shit, DARPA leftovers from those black-budget psych ops. Body swap. Neural mapping. Full immersion. You slide into someone else's skin. They into yours. For as long as you can stomach it. No sci-fi bullshit. It's real. Tested on vets with PTSD. Cost your dad a pretty penny last year. Tried it on a rival to negotiate from the inside. Failed spectacularly. But for you?
Pro bono.
I hate guys like him. Meet my contact tomorrow. Or walk away. And Tommy's wedding goes off without a hitch. I walked out into the rain. Tags burning a hole in my pocket. The decision coiling in my chest like barbed wire.
Swap bodies?
It sounded like the plot of some B-movie on late-night sci-fi. But Eddie's eyes, hard, unblinking, sold it. And God help me. The rage tasted like freedom. Dad had stolen my life piece by piece. Now I'd steal his back. One controversial choice at a time. The contact was a ghost named Dr. Lena Voss, ex-CIA shrink holed up in a nondescript clinic in Hamtramck. The kind of place where the air hummed with fluorescent buzz and the faint tang of ozone from jury-rigged machines. She was mid-40s, sharp as a switchblade, with a German accent that clipped her words like wire cutters. Neural transference, she explained over lukewarm coffee in a back room stacked with humming servers and tangled cables. We map the brain's connectome, every synapse, every memory engram, then shunt it into a host via electromagnetic induction. Reversible. Mostly. Side effects? Identity bleed. You wake up tasting their regrets. Mostly, I echoed. Heart hammering. She shrugged. 87% success. The rest. Echoes. But for you, Alice, it's surgical. Target, your father. You become Richard Harper for the wedding weekend. Expose the ledgers, the payoffs, the poison. Then swap back. Clean. Becoming Dad. The thought clawed at me, wearing his skin, his smug baritone, his calloused hands that had once tucked me in. Controversial didn't cover it. It was profane. A violation that could shatter me. But Tommy's wedding was in 3 days. Martha's Vineyard imported to a lakeside estate in Bloomfield Hills. All the players would be there. Dad's cronies. Tommy's fiancée, Becca, with her fake lashes and real felonies. The family I'd lost.
If I didn't act,
the lie would bind tighter. Grandpa's ghost fading to nothing. Do it, I said, signing the waiver with a hand that didn't shake. Not yet. The procedure happened that night, in a Faraday cage that smelled like burnt wiring and fear. Voss strapped me down, Eddie hovering like a bad luck charm. Think of it as method acting, she murmured, the helmet descending like a crown of thorns. Needles pricked, currents surged, and then darkness. A vertigo whirl, like falling through my own skull. When I surfaced, gasping, I was staring at my own face, pale, wide-eyed, strapped to the gurney across from me. No, that was Dad in my body, his expression a mask of bewilderment twisting into fury. Alice? What the fuck? Shut up, Dad, I said, and his voice boomed from his chest, deep and commanding, laced with the scotch he favored. I flexed his fingers, broader than mine, scarred from golf grips and backroom deals. Power hummed in his veins.
A stranger arogance flă din mine.
Voss unstrapped me. Her nod clinical. 24 hours max before decoherence. Use it. I stumbled out into the Detroit night. Dad's Bentley keys jangling in his pocket, my pocket now, his wallet fat with cash and cards that opened every door. The drive home was a nightmare blur, muscle memory steering the car, while my mind reeled from the flood, flashes of his mistresses. The thrill of closing dirty deals. The cold calculation of dosing Grandpa's for. It hit me like vomit. He'd done it in the hospital room, casual as signing a check. Because Grandpa had confronted him about the fraud, threatened to go public. You took the fall for less, he'd justified in a memory that wasn't mine. This is for the family. By dawn, I was Richard Harper, dictating emails from his home office, the wedding planner on speaker gushing about ice sculptures while I seethed. Tommy burst in mid-morning, all pressed khakis and cologne, clapping our shoulder.
Dad.
You look wrecked. Becca's flight's in from LA. This is gonna be epic. Epic. The word curdled. I wanted to grab him, shake the entitlement out. But the plan held. Infiltrate. Expose. Escape. The estate crawled with preparations, tents like white sails on the manicured lawn, caterers hauling Dom Perignon from trucks that probably ran on laundered diesel. I played the part, barking orders in Dad's timbre. But inside, Alice screamed. Becca arrived at noon, a vision in yoga pants and designer shades, air kissing my cheek, his cheek, while Tommy fawned. Mr. Harper, you're a lifesaver with the funding, she purred, but her eyes darted.
Guilty.
Later, alone in the study, I hacked Dad's laptop, his password slithering up like bile, Tommy Future 1944. A sick nod to the engraving. Files spilled. Wire transfers to Becca's accounts. Shell companies masking the casino skim. And worst, a digital trail to the hospital. Forged timestamps on the nurse's log. But the betrayal deepened. Buried in a subfolder. My confession video. Edited. Dad hadn't just framed me. He'd scripted it. Paying off the DA for leniency. Then leaking it to the press to bury me deeper. Necessary sacrifice, the note read. For Tommy. Always for Tommy. As dusk fell, guests trickled in, suits from Dad's firm. Socialites with Botox smiles, the air thick with small talk and string quartet strains. I cornered Tommy by the bar, his face boyish under the fairy lights. Son, I said, the word foreign and foul. We need to talk about Becca. His brow furrowed, but before he could respond, Becca sidled up, arm looping his. Everything okay? Richie. The nickname grated, intimate in ways that twisted my gut. That's when the first crack showed. A memory bleed, Dad's. Not mine, surfaced. Becca wasn't just a mark, she was his type. A younger echo of Mom. And he'd betted her once. Pre-engagement. To test her loyalty. Tommy knew. Forgave it. For the money. The status. My brother's wedding wasn't love. It was a merger. Sealed with my grandfather's blood. Rage boiled. Controversial decisions flashing like warning lights. Confront now. Blow it all? Or wait. Let the ceremony unfold. Then detonate? I chose the wire, live streaming the ledger files to a burner account boss had set up. Anonymous tips queued to the feds and local PD. But as Tommy took the altar, Becca in white lace like a shroud, I slipped into the vestry, Dad's phone in hand, dialing Eddie for extraction. Almost done, I muttered. But the line crackled, Dad, in my body, had woken early.
Pieced it together.
Alice, you bitch, he snarled through my own lips. Undo this, or I gut your life from the inside out. Threats spilled. He'd trash my apartment. Frame me again.
Worse.
The swap's instability hit then, a migraine splitting my skull. Visions of Alice's childhood bleeding into Dad's conquests. Who was I? In this shell? The ceremony peaked. Vows exchanged under a canopy of stars. And I stepped out, clapping with the crowd, Dad's smile plastered on. But the twist waited in the shadows. As cake was cut, an envelope slid under the study door, anonymous.
Heavy.
Inside, photos. Not of Dad's sins, but Grandpa's. Him in 44, not storming beaches, but in a lab, DARPA precursor, pioneering the swap tech. The engraving? A warning, not a confession. Grandpa hadn't been silenced. He'd orchestrated it all, swapping into soldiers to steal kills, accolades, lives. Dad knew, had covered for him, inherited the tech from Voss's Black Ops. And me, the fall guy not just for Dad, but for a legacy of monsters. The fraud? Grandpa's idea. Testing my loyalty. The truth reversed. I wasn't the victim. I was the echo, groomed to carry the curse. As sirens wailed distant, tips hitting home, I smashed the phone. The swap fraying. Pain lanced, and I collapsed. Guests scattering. Tommy screamed, Dad, a hollow echo. Voss extracted me at midnight. Dad thrashing in my body as we reversed. Back in my skin, I felt lighter or just empty. The arrests came by dawn. Dad for fraud, Becca for embezzlement, Tommy as accessory. Grandpa's secrets? Buried deeper. A debatable mercy. I walked away with the tags, the rain washing clean, but the question lingered. Was revenge justice? Or just another swap? The family fractured. But me? Whole. Finally. Or so I tell myself in the quiet hours. Waking up in my own body felt like surfacing from a drowning dream, gasping, slick with sweat. The clinic's sterile hum a lifeline. Voss peeled off the monitors, her face impassive as she logged vitals. Clean transfer. Minimal bleed. Minimal. Try none. Dad's echoes clung like smoke, the texture of his silk ties, the burn of his first morning bourbon, the cold calculus of every deal. I could still taste the wedding cake, vanilla and ash, as Tommy's world imploded around him. Sirens had swallowed the estate by the time the swap reversed, feds swarming like ants on a picnic. Cuffing Dad, Richard Harper, King of Shadows, right there on the lawn amid toppled champagne flutes. Becca, mid-sob, spilling names to save her highlights. Tommy, my brother, the future, staring at me, no, at Dad's shell, as if betrayal had a face. You did this, he'd whispered, before they zip-tied him for questioning. Did I? Or was it the tags? Grandpa's ghost. Pulling strings from the grave, I fled before the media circus peaked. Eddie's charger idling in the tree lane. Engine a low growl against the chaos. Poetic, he'd grunted, tossing me a burner phone. Your pop's empire crumbles. And you're free. What's next?
Kid. Free.
The word mocked me as we tore down Woodward Avenue, Detroit's spine lit by sodium lamps that flickered like faulty memories. Free from the rap sheet Dad pinned on me at 18, the one that cost me MIT and turned every date into a background check. Free from the holidays where I'd smile through gritted teeth, watching Tommy unwrap the world while I nursed grudges like cheap whiskey. But the twist, the photos in that envelope, gnawed deeper. Grandpa Jack. Not the hero of family lore, but a swap pioneer, body-hopping through war for glory. The tech Voss peddled, his brainchild, smuggled home in '45, refined in basements while America rebuilt. Dad hadn't covered for him out of love. It was inheritance.
A dark patent passed down like the tags.
I holed up in a no-tell motel off Gresham, the kind with hourly rates and walls thin as alibis. Tags clutched in my fist. Sleep came in fits. Dreams of Normandy beaches where faces shifted mid-charge, Grandpa in a GI's skin, laughing as he claimed kills that weren't his. Woke to the burner buzzing, Voss. Complications. Your father's demanding a deal. Immunity for the full archive, swaps, launderings, the works. Including you.
Me?
I'd figured the exposure ended with the wedding bust.
But no.
The ledger files I'd leaked, they traced back to my IP. Pre-swap. When I'd poked around Dad's accounts years ago out of spite. Voss's hack to anonymize hadn't stuck. Dad's IT guy was a bloodhound. He's painting you as the mastermind, she said. Voice flat. The disgruntled daughter. Radicalized by family trauma. Feds are listening. You run. It sticks. Betrayal's second wave. Not just Dad's frame job redux. But mine. I'd handed them the rope. Thinking justice blind. Controversial? Hell. It was suicidal. Stay and fight. Risk the big house again? Or vanish. Let the lie metastasize? Eddie crashed the room an hour later. Duffel of cash and fake IDs slung over his shoulder. Plan B. One more swap. Not your old man, too hot now. Tommy. He's out on bail, prepping his sob story for the judge. Slide in. Make him confess on record. Flip the script.
Tommy.
My brother. The one I'd protected. Envied. Hated in whispers. Becoming him? It twisted the knife, wearing his easy charm, his unscarred optimism, to gut him from within. Why him? I rasped, but Eddie just grinned. Teeth gold in the neon bleed. 'Cause blood's thicker than ink. And you owe him a wedding gift. The procedure was rushed. Voss's clinic a hive of shadows and sparking consoles. Dad's arrest had spooked her. Feds were sniffing DARPA ghosts. Shorter window, she warned. Helmet clamping down. 12 hours. Identity bleeds higher, his life shallower. But it'll echo loud. Currents fired. The whirl returned, and I tumbled into Tommy's form, 25, lithe from CrossFit, skin smooth where mine was etched with stress lines. Emerging, I blinked at the mirror in his loft condo overlooking the river, platinum views mocking the handcuff rash on his wrists. Tommy's memories washed in, frat parties blurring into boardroom pitches. Becca's laugh a drug. Dad's approval the hit he chased hardest. No guilt for the fraud. Just resentment, at me. The shadow sister who'd ruined the family name with my mistake. He'd known about the frame, laughed it off over beers as tough love. For the future. I dressed in his slim-fit suit, the fabric whispering privilege. and headed to his lawyer's office in downtown Birmingham, oak-paneled, smelling of leather and lies. The meet was with a fixer Dad had on retainer. Prepping Tommy's plea. Minor involvement. Scapegoat the dead grandpa. Play contrite, the lawyer droned, but I nodded. Tommy's dimples flashing.
Inside.
Alice plotted. Record the session. Bake confessions. Upload live. It started smooth, me as Tommy, spinning yarns of ignorance, eyes downcast. But the bleed crept, his hunger for Becca's touch. The thrill of her stolen cash funding their jet-set lies. I pushed, voice cracking authentic. What if Alice is right? Dad's deeper than we thought. The lawyer leaned in.
Sharky.
Then we bury her again. Your sister's got priors, easy mark. There it was. The hook. I feigned breakdown. Tears hot and real. She took the fall for me. For us. Grandpa knew, those tags. The swap shit. Dad killed him to keep it quiet. Words tumbled. Confessions spilling like cheap rose. The hospital visit. The vial in Dad's pocket. Becca's role in laundering through her influencer deals. The lawyer paled, fumbling for his phone. But I was faster. Tommy's Apple Watch live streaming to Voss's server. Every damning syllable captured. A panic hit as the session wrapped, the lawyer bolting with plausible deniability on his lips. I raced to the condo. Sirens already wailing, my upload triggering alerts. But the twist doubled down. Becca, waiting, eyes wild. Tommy? What the fuck? The feds are at the door. She'd hacked his phone, his life. My temporary cage, piecing the swap from Voss's chatter. You're not him. You're the bitch sister. Aren't you? Always meddling. She lunged, nails raking Tommy's face, my face, screaming about ruined empires. Dad's promises. The struggle blurred, her versus me and him. Furniture splintering. A lamp shattering like glass truths. I pinned her, breath ragged. He deserved better, she spat. But who? Tommy? Or her illusion? The bleed surged then, Tommy's love for her crashing against my hate. A storm of conflicting pulses. End it, his echo urged. For us. Controversial forked. Kill the feed? Mercy? Or let it roll? Dooming them all? I chose the abyss. Shoving her toward the balcony as cops breached. She teetered. Fell, no. Jumped, screaming into the Detroit night. A white streak against black water. The impact echoed in my bones. Not mine. Extraction came in the chaos. Voss's team posing as EMTs. Wheeling Tommy out amid flashing lights. Reversal hit like lightning. Back in Alice. The loft a crime scene. Becca's body fished from the river by dawn.
Tommy?
Charged with her murder-suicide, his confession sealing it. Dad's deal crumbled. He flipped on no one. Went down howling. I vanished south. Tags sold for seed money on a beachside startup in Key West, coding apps for vets. Ironic therapy. Free? Debatable. The family? Shattered glass. Irreparable. But in the quiet, when echoes whisper Dad's laugh or Tommy's plea, I wonder, was it revenge? Or just the next lie? Key West sunrises are liars, painting the Gulf in golds that promise rebirth. But the salt air just stings old wounds. 6 months post-swap. Post-fallout. And I'm Alice Harper again, 30 now. Hair sun-bleached. Coding neural sims for a boutique firm that doesn't ask about gaps in my resume. The tags? Melted down. The metal funding my escape, burner flights to the Conch Republic. where no one knows the Harpers from Adam. But freedom's a fickle bitch. It comes with mirrors that reflect not just your face, but the ghosts you carry. Tommy's dimples in my smile. Dad's growl in my throat. Voss calls it residue, synaptic scars from the transfers. I call it haunting. The news hit piecemeal, filtered through anonymous feeds Eddie rigged before ghosting. Dad's trial, front page in the Free Press. Real estate mogul's empire built on bodies. The wedding ledgers cracked wide. Casino skim exposed. Ties to tribal councils unraveling like cheap yarn. He took no plea. Ranting in court about ingrates and family saboteurs, eyes locking on the proxy I sent, a empty chair marked AH. Tommy's hearing? A circus. Manslaughter pinned on him for Becca's plunge. His recorded confession played like a greatest hits of denial. It was her, the sister. She's the monster. The judge, unmoved, slammed 30 to life.
No parole.
Blood on my hands, or justice's bill. Controversial choices echo loudest in solitude. That night in the loft, pinning Becca, feeling Tommy's pulse race under my skin, hers was the shove. But mine the intent. I'd meant to scare, to break her poise, not her neck. Or had I? The bleed argued yes. His resentment fueling mine, she poisoned us all.
Now.
Postcards from nowhere and signed. Postmarked Detroit, whisper otherwise. You were always the strong one. Alice. Forgive? Tommy's scrawl? Or Dad's forgery from his cell? The real twist surfaced in a manila envelope. FedEx to my P.O. box 3 months in. Voss's parting gift. Or curse. DARPA D-class files. Stamped 1944. Detailing Project Echo, Grandpa Jack's opus. Not just swaps for kills, but erasures, neural wipes mid-transfer. Hosts left vegetative. Memories harvested for psyops. The engraving? A kill-less cipher.
Victim's initials etched post op. Giash.
The lie that binds. But the question mark? Grandpa's doubt. Scribbled after Normandy. When a swapped sergeant begged in his own voice, "Who am I now?" He'd buried it. Passed the tech to Dad as legacy, not monster.
Dad.
In turn, tested it on me, not the fraud frame, but earlier. A car accident at 16 that left me concussed, forgetful. To erase my prying into his deals? Or groom me as heir? I wasn't the fall guy. I was the prototype. The swaps, Dad's refinement. Using Voss to perfect what Grandpa botched.
Tommy.
The golden boy. A decoy. Shallow enough to swap without shattering. Becca's death? Collateral in their game. I'd been the pawn. Flipping the board only to find it rigged. Trus reversed, no héroes. Just echoes and skins. Grandpa silenced not by poison, but plea, Dad's mercy dose at his begging. To end the madness. The tags?
Bait.
To draw me in. Test my mettle for the family trade. Rage reignited, but twisted, against the dead. The machine they'd built. I drove north. Gulf Coast highways blurring to interstates. Detroit calling like a siren scar. Eddie's shop shuttered. Voss vanished, feds or fate. But the prison? Open for visitation. Dad first. Through plexiglass in Wayne County Max. His face gaunt. Eyes still steel. Alice, he croaked. Receiver greasy. You came. Not for you, I said. Voice steady. Mine alone. For answers. The swaps, why me? He laughed. Wet and broken. Jack's dream. Pure bloodlines for the transfers. You were strongest, Fought the bleeds like a demon. Tommy? Cracked first try.
But you.
You could have ruled it all. Confession spilled. The fraud a trial run. My jail time to toughen the connectome. Grandpa's death? Euthanasia. Whispered pact. Becca? Tommy's idea. To bind her silence. We were building something eternal. You destroyed it. Eternalize, I countered, hanging up to his pleas. Tommy next. In County Grey. Younger but hollowed. Sis, he breathed.
Tires instant.
I knew. About everything. Forgave cause. Family. The shove? He'd felt it. Echo through the swap. Whispered push in panic. Becca had confessed to him that night, her own swaps. Black market. To escape debts. She jumped to frame you. Us. Debatable mercy, I walked out. No forgiveness. But no chains. The final choice loomed. Burn the files.
Lead HOD?
Or weaponize. Expose the tech. Topple the shadows. Controversial to the core. Unleash it. Risk more monsters? Or bury. Become the lie? Dawn found me at Grandpa's grave. Bell, I'll mist cloaking the stone. Tags reformed. Melted into a pendant. Hung heavy. I knelt. Dirt cold under knees. The bind breaks, I murmured, digging a shallow hole. Files crumbling to ash in the wind. No happy end. No tragedy pure, just tension uncoiling. Debatable peace. The drive south healed nothing. But space breathed.
Now.
Coding in the keys. I build clean sims, VR for therapy.
No swaps. No skins.
Echoes fade. But nights bring dreams. Faces shifting. Voices pleading. Was it revenge? Justice? Or inheritance claimed? Readers hell. Me. Still argue in the quiet. But the hook's released. I'm Alice. Unbound.
For now.